NBC News projects that Amy McGrath has won Kentucky Senate Democratic primary and will now face off against Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell in November. McGrath edged out progressive Charles Booker 45% to 43%, a margin of about 15,000 votes, with 97% of the state's precincts reporting. Former Governor John Hickenlooper won yesterday's Democratic Senate primary in Colorado and will face Senator Cory Gardner, one of the Republicans' most vulnerable Senate incumbents, this fall. According to Politico, the Colorado Senate race was the most significant contest on Tuesday because the state is essential for Democrats' path back to the Senate majority. One seat the Democrats will be fighting to keep is the one held by Doug Jones in Alabama. Here is one of his latest re-election ads focusing on the coronavirus.
The COVID crisis has shown how our health depends on each other, on our neighbors, our loved ones, our co-workers. Wearing masks and social distancing is about protecting each other. Our parents and grandparents, the friend who has diabetes or a heart condition we didn't know about, the frontline workers who put themselves at risk, and so our small businesses open safely and get our economy moving. I'm Senator Doug Jones, and I approve this message because in Alabama, we do this for each other.
It's that simple. Senator Jones joins us now. Great to have you on the show. Appreciate your leadership on wearing masks. How is Alabama faring in terms of, and I believe Tuscaloosa just said that you have to wear masks everywhere. How is it faring in dealing with the coronavirus and getting your constituents to follow social distancing guidelines?
It's not faring very well right now. I mean, we have had the highest 14-day count that we've had, I think, in the last 14 days. 28% of all cases since March have occurred in the last 14 days, and that is not good. And you can trace that back to the Memorial Day weekend, right after our governor started lifting restrictions, and I'm not critical of that. I thought she did it in the right way. Unfortunately, people just heard the message, we're opening up, and they didn't get the message that you still need the social distance, you still need to wear the mask. And I think what we're seeing right now is directly related back to what started to occur on Memorial Day. And I worry that going into July 4th that we're going to see the same thing, and we will be in more trouble later in the month or in August as schools start to open.
Yeah, it just does seem like there is a real inconsistency in the messaging from the very top of our government when it comes to how to reopen safely and how to behave in this new normal of having a pandemic among us without a vaccine and without mass testing. Is there a struggle to communicate to your constituents about this because of that?
Sure. I don't think there's any question about that. I think state officials have done a pretty good job. By and large, we have tried to get that message out consistently. Our public health officials have gotten that message out. You know, one of the things I've told folks from the very beginning, I said, don't listen to the politicians unless they're repeating what the health officials have said to you. But unfortunately, when you have seen the messages coming out of Washington, D.C., in a state where the president is popular, then those messages get mungled and they get messed up, and people don't see it, and people watch and they go by examples. And I think it has been a serious problem, and we're a little bit late. That's why you are beginning to see more and more of my Republican colleagues talking about wearing masks. Even Senator McConnell was talking about it on the floor yesterday. But we're about a month late for that. They should have started that, and they should have been doing it since May or before.
Yamiche Alcindor has the next question. Yamiche?
Good morning, Senator. I have two quick questions for you. The first is on the Confederate monuments and statues. You said that the decision to remove them should be left up to local authorities. Can you explain that position a bit more, why you're taking that, instead of saying that maybe nationally lawmakers should be having the example there? And secondly, when it comes to police reform, you were one of two Democrats in the Senate who voted to move forward on the Senate bill, the Tim Scott bill on policing. Why take that vote? And do you think Democrats are being unreasonable in their demands for police reform?
Well, let's talk about the Confederate monuments first. I mean, I was one of the Armed Services Committee members who voted overwhelmingly to require the Department of Defense to remove those Confederate names and monuments from all Department of Defense assets. That's where Congress does. I've always believed, and this goes back to my campaign in 2017, that this, the federal government should not be telling a local community and the state government should not be telling a local community. That was in part based on a law that Alabama passed in which our legislators in Montgomery decided they know better than the people in a community. Now, when I say that, I don't mean necessarily that you should take a poll or that you should take a vote. I think people have to be very, very sensitive to all folks in that community, and I think what you're seeing across Alabama is in every community across the state. There are serious discussions about this and where we're going to move those monuments and move them to places of historical significance. On the police bill, a lot of people said I voted for Tim Scott's bill. I did not do that. I just voted to have debate. I really believe, and I came at it in a little bit different way from my colleagues, I believe we ought to have that debate on the floor. A lot of people didn't believe that Senator McConnell would put amendments and have a very transparent process, but I wanted to put it on the floor and try to force that issue, and if he didn't have amendments and a real transparent process, then shame on him. But I think it's important that we move forward. I want to see it. I'm a co-sponsor of the Harris-Booker bill. I think that's the bill that we need to have on the floor and that we can work with folks. Right now, people just kind of need to settle down, get out of their corners a little bit, because there is no question in my mind that people across this country in every state in the union, not just Democratic states, want to see some change, and they want to see some reforms made, and they want to see them made very soon.
Senator Jones, it's Willie Geist. Good to have you on the show this morning. I want to ask you about this story, widespread reporting that comes from intelligence officers that say there was a bounty program from Russia that paid Taliban militants to kill American and coalition troops in Afghanistan. The president this morning is calling that story fake. He's calling it a hoax. Do you find it credible that the president of the United States, if this information was in his president's daily brief, or something this significant was out there as a piece of intelligence, do you find it credible that the president did not know about it?
No, I don't. If that's the case, as my colleague Tammy Duckworth said, members of the armed services are going over for a briefing soon in a couple hours. So we're going to know more about that. But should that be credible, should that be the case where he had this in his briefings, he should have done something. And I think more importantly, too, that folks need to remember, and this is something that I heard in a question from a town hall in an area last night, in an area of the state of Alabama that would be one of the President Trump's stronger positions. And that is, people are worried about Russia, and they don't think, even if he didn't hear the brief, even if he didn't see it, even if it didn't make it to him, when this came out in the public, instead of calling this a hoax, you need to be saying, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to see if there's some truth to this, because this is really damn serious, and we need to be determining whether or not the Russians are trying to kill American troops. That it goes even beyond election interference. And so the response from the White House has been just as appalling as the news that is coming out. We've got to do a better job of trying to get it. I hope we're going to get more information in a couple hours.
Yes, Senator Doug Jones, we do too. Thank you very, very much for being on the show this morning. And still ahead, Dave Wasserman of the Cook Political Report pointed out this fact overnight. When President Trump took office in January of 2017, there were 241 Republicans in the House. Since then, 115, or 48%, have either retired, resigned, been defeated, or are retiring in 2020. And now, amid a global pandemic, we're seeing a growing number of GOP lawmakers break with the president over the issue of face masks. We'll talk about what this all means for the virus and the 2020 election. We're back in 1 minute.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.